Alright, so let me tell you about my boss. From the moment I started this job, something about him just didn't sit right with me. You know how you meet someone and you get this gut feeling that something's off? That was him. Let's call him Mr. Collins. On the surface, he seemed normal enough. Always polite. Too polite, actually. Like he was trying a bit too hard to fit in. But his smile, it never quite reached his eyes. And those eyes, they were dark, almost like they were hollow. One day, I was working late, and it was just me and Mr. Collins left in the office. I was packing up to leave when I heard this strange noise coming from his office, like a wet, slithering sound. Curiosity got the best of me, so I peeked around the corner, and that's when I saw it. Mr. Collins was standing in front of the mirror, but he wasn't alone. He was peeling his face off. Not in a metaphorical way, like he was actually pulling the skin away from his face, stretching it out like it was some kind of mask. His hands were working fast, and as he pulled, I could see something else underneath. Something pale and almost scaly, like snakeskin. I must have gasped or made some kind of noise because he turned around, still holding that floppy piece of skin in his hand. But the face looking at me wasn't Mr. Collins. It was something else entirely. Its eyes were pitch black, like a void, and its mouth twisted into this grin that seemed to go way too wide, filled with sharp, needle-like teeth. He, or it, started to put the skin back on, like slipping into a costume. And then, just like that, he was Mr. Collins again, adjusting his tie as if nothing happened. He looked right at me and said, "You're working late, aren't you?" In that same overly polite tone, like he hadn't just peeled his face off in front of me. I was frozen. I didn't know what to do, so I just mumbled something about needing to get home. As I turned to leave, he said, "It's best not to stay too late. You never know what might happen when you're alone." And he gave me that smile, one that didn't reach his eyes, the eyes that were still dark and empty. The next day at work, he acted like nothing had happened, like we hadn't shared that moment in the dark. I started watching him closer after that, and I noticed little things. How sometimes his movements were too smooth, too practiced, like he was mimicking how humans behave, and how every now and then his eyes would flicker, just for a second, revealing that black void underneath. I've been looking for another job ever since, but until I find one, I try to leave the office before dark, because now I know that Mr. Collins isn't just a creepy boss. He's something else entirely, and I don't want to stick around long enough to find out what he really is.